Do you ever feel insecure? And if your answer is yes, which I think all of us, if being honest, would be, well, I'm going to say this, we're in good company. Because as we look at these disciples, these three disciples, we see as we look at their different perspectives, what comes out shining bright is their insecurities. Which one of us are the greatest? And in these insecurities, we see something different that they noticed about this story. Same scene, but the stories are a little bit different. Now, what I've done is I've taken and put in categories what I like to call the 3 A's. Different, one of we have, being honest, we all fall into one of these 3 A's of this, and the first one is the asker, which is someone that's direct. The second is the avoider, and then the arguer. So we're going to talk about that, and I want you to see in this when I'm telling these stories, see if you notice the differences in these stories. See if you pick up on the insecurities and figure out which one of these disciples fall into that. So we'll start with Matthew. We'll start with Matthew's story. Now, Matthew, he's the former tax collector, and most likely he's the one that he kind of handled the disciple, the money. He just kind of handled the finance, kept it all organized. He was a tax collector, so he's most likely good with money. And I don't know, with these disciples, when I read the scriptures, I kind of assign personalities to each and every one of these guys. Now, this is what's going on in my head, so I guess buckle up a little bit because you're going to see a little bit what goes in my head. But when I'm reading these stories, I picture the disciples sharing these and their personalities coming through. And when I think of Matthew, I think of him as maybe he's a New Yorker. Maybe he's from the Bronx. He has a little Bronx personality, a little Bronx accent. So here's Matthew's story. All right, so let me tell you what's going on. So we're walking to Capernaum, okay? Me and the boys, and as we're walking, we start discussing which one of us are the greatest. I got old Peter, he's talking about he thinks he's the greatest. We got Luke, the good doctor, yeah, he thinks he's the greatest. And I was like, oh, come on, God, forget about it. I'm going to just go over, and I just went straight up to Jesus, and I just asked him. I just said, hey, Jesus, hey, man. Me and the boys were talking about who's the greatest. We're trying to figure it out. Now, we know you love all of us. We got that, okay? But if you had to choose, had to, which one of us, now just keep in mind, you trust me with the money. You are the Son of God. You trust me to keep track of the Son of God's money. Just putting that out there. Don't want that to affect your decision at all. But which one of us would be the greatest? If you had to choose. See, this is what Jesus did. See, I don't know, maybe we were there was kids running around everywhere, maybe we were at a daycare or something. I don't know where these kids come from, but there was one boy. He was running around, and his name was Tony, And Jesus called out, yo, Tony, come here. Tony came up there. And Jesus said, you don't know which one's the greatest? We're like, yeah, Jesus, that's why we ask you. That's why I asked you the question, which one of us is the greatest? And this is what Jesus said. He said, if you guys want to see who the greatest is, you got to look at my boy Tony right here. Because you got to be like a child. You got to be humble, and you got to be teachable like a child. And if you can do that, then you're the greatest. You got to humble yourself. That's what happened with Jesus. That's Matthew's story. Next, we come to Peter. Now, Peter, he's walking to his hometown, Capernaum, to his house, and I think Peter had a lot of Fort Pierce in him, truthfully. I can picture kind of Capernaum, kind of like Fort Pierce. Like Peter, he wake up in the morning, and for breakfast, he goes down and gets a dozen Dixie Cream Donuts. I can see Peter, it's time for lunch, and you can probably find him Monday through Friday at Moonschweiner's. And now just on special occasions, not every night, okay, but just on special occasions, you may see Peter, he gets his old lady together, and they go down to the Golden Corral. Special night. But I see Peter as kind of a country boy. So here's Peter telling the story. So we were walking down the street and we're going to our hometown. You know Capricorn? So we're headed to Capricorn and going to my house. Some people say it's my mother-in-law's house. It's not my mother-in-law's house. It's my house. She just stays with us. I'm a nice guy. You know, I could give her the boot any time I want to, but I let her stay with us. Yes, does she have the master bedroom? Yeah, but it's still my house, you know. Nice guy. So me and the fellows were walking, and we weren't that loud at all. We were just kind of talking. We were kind of whispering about it, you know. Saying, like, which one is the greatest? Which one's the greatest? And we're all trying to discuss this, and we didn't want Jesus to hear us. But we got to the house, you know, and Jesus, he has ears like a rabbit. He says, hey, guys, what are y'all talking about when we were walking here? Now, we don't want to lie to Jesus. I don't want to say anything, so we just kind of just looked around like we didn't know anything. You know, I was like, well, I try to act like I didn't hear him. And Jesus said, no, were you guys discussing which one of y'all are the greatest? Hey, Jesus, see that butterfly right there? It's a pretty butterfly, ain't it? Yeah. Maybe later there's a really cool, there's a really good place called Moonshwiners. Maybe we can go to that. We can go there afterwards. It really has a good barbecue. This is what Jesus did. There's a little boy, he's running around. Jesus took that boy, and he took him, and he wrapped his arms around him, gave him a big old bear hug, you know. And he said, you guys want to know who the greatest is? This is what Jesus said. He said, if you can accept me like this child, and then when you accept me, what you're really doing, you're accepting the Father. If you can humble yourself there, then that's who's the greatest is. That's what Jesus said. That's what he said right there. That's Peter's version of it. Now, Luke, he's a doctor, you know. He's a little sophisticated, went through medical school and everything. So I think Luke, he's probably a little more dignified at first about that. So the other day, you know, me and the disciples, we were walking. I wasn't really hanging out with them. I wasn't really paying attention to them, but I overheard something. I really didn't like the sound of it. Matthew was talking about that he was the greatest because he handles Jesus' money. Jesus is the Son of God. Like, does he need money, you know? Like, he turns water into wine. You know, he takes fish and bread and, like, multiplies it and feeds thousands of people. Like, he needs money. You know, big deal. You handle the checkbook. Then old Peter, old hillbilly Peter, talking about, oh, I'm the greatest. We're going to be staying in my house. We all know it ain't your house. It's your mother-in-law's house. Yeah, I can live with my mother-in-law too, Peter. Yeah. All right, Billy Ray. Yeah, you're the greatest. I couldn't let it go like that. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I'm a doctor. Obviously, I'm smarter than them. So I went in, we started talking. I'm not really proud of this, but yeah, I got a little loud. And we started arguing about who the greatest is. Finally, Jesus just had enough, and he was just like, stop! What are y'all doing? You want to know who the greatest is? And we're like, yeah! No one's going to pick me, you know. And then what Jesus did, he took this child, and he took him, and he stood him beside him, and he said, if you can choose me like this child, if you can humble yourself like this child, then you're the greatest. The greatest is the least among you. That's the three stories.